Welcome back to Unscripted, Carwash.com's video interview series connecting you with market leaders. Joining me today on Unscripted, happy to welcome in Dom Candelori, Director of Operations and Business Development, and Daniel Mahaffey, CEO of Quality Wash Solutions. Gentlemen, great to see you both today.
Thank you.
Pleasure to see you, Rich.
Absolutely. And Dom, you actually seeked us out at NRCC 2022 in Atlantic City. It was great to see you there. And you and I had gotten into a discussion about building car washes these days and how important it is to find a quality builder and really what operators need to know before they stick shovels into the ground, right? So first question for you gentlemen is, what are the leading mistakes that you see car wash owners and operators specifically make when looking to build a new car wash today?
Well, I think probably one of the biggest things is, this industry has changed quite a bit over the last few years where, we used to have the single operators building, 1-2 locations to now we have a lot of private equity coming in, building multiple locations. There's a lot of them that we've had conversations with doing 40, 50 a year is their goal. So it's kind of changed the way that people look at building car washes. The big problem beforehand really lied in partnering up with a good distributor in the marketplace, a good builder. I used to tell people, you want to find somebody who's done this before. Although it's not, I like to say it's not rocket science, it's just car washing. But there is some ins and outs that you need to know in building a car wash that are different than building another type of retail location. So number one, I would say, try to source a builder who has some knowledge, some previous experience in building car washes. That takes a lot of the headaches of the learning process out of the equation. And then probably the next step is pre-construction meetings. Getting all the trades, equipment supplier, equipment installer, electrician, plumber, builder, everybody on board so that you could have very open conversations about responsibilities, where one trade leaves off and the next trade picks up, and making sure that the plans marry up to each other, and in specific, the equipment drawings and the architectural drawings.
Understood. And Dom, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, so, and the other side of it is, you get what you pay for. You got to go out there and as an operator. So I spent 15 years as an operator. I've built, quite a few as an operator. And I will tell you a lot of the mistakes that I made as an operator, that we made as a company, where we were worried about dollars. And in the end, it cost us more money in the long run trying to save money in the beginning. Yeah, you could save 10, 15, 20,000 in the beginning, but honestly, if you get pushed back or your opening gets delayed or the installation just isn't up to par or the building didn't come in, under budget or on time, it costs you far more than what you're saving in the beginning. It's just a crucial mistake that I see get made so many times across the board.
Yeah, it goes back to that point Daniel made is you want to find somebody who's experienced with building car washes because they're such a unique animal when comparing them to other retail businesses. So speaking about builders, obviously, Daniel, you mentioned that number of years in business or having a nice portfolio, let's say, of car washes that the builder has built. But what are some telltale signs? What are some common mistakes that an inexperienced builder or equipment installer can make that you've seen in your years in the market?
I would say one of the biggest mistakes is concrete work. Especially when we're talking conveyorized tunnels. But the most important part is the bay floor and the conveyor trench. If those aren't done properly, entrance and exit coming in and out of the tunnel. If they're not done properly, it creates havoc when it comes time to install the equipment. So instead of being able to come in and do everything per manufacturer specs, you have to start changing and try to work with what you got. Most of the time when that happens, they're either in a time crunch or don't want to spend the money to bust the floor back up, redo it, or bust the pit back up and redo the conveyor pit. We have had situations where they will do that, but that's few and far between. So I would say concrete, and that's becoming more and more prevalent in this industry. Concrete work is by far the area that we see the most issues.
Interesting. Wasn't expecting that. Dom, what about you?
So I will tell you a lot of the issues that I've come across and that I see happening is long hydraulic runs for the hydraulic tunnels, rub points, not securing them properly with with proper clamps, or using clamps that in a year are rusted out. That it's an easy mistake to make. It's an easy mistake to overlook. Some of these hydraulics have chases that go underground, and you're talking, an 80-foot, piece of hydraulic hose that, 70 foot of it's underground, and you're seeing 10 foot of it. You can't equate for, bulges and bubbling. So I mean, that's just a small portion of what we're seeing. Improper blower placement. You're not putting blowers in the proper places to where it pushes the water off the car. And, we're seeing some that, at the end of the tunnel pushes all the water back to the center of the car. So, just little things like that maybe you would overlook and not think about, like the concrete work. Like you said, you were surprised to hear that concrete work is a huge problem in this industry. I apologize, but it is, and you wouldn't think of it, but it's just something that we're coming across that, it's little things that get looked over, and then it's the huge things that get looked over.
And sometimes these are quick fixes, but sometimes these are big deals that can turn into big problems. So again, you want to make sure you partner with the right people from the outset before you stick that shovel in the ground, right? So we're hearing so many challenges nowadays with supply shortages, labor shortages, material shortages. How long does it take to build a car wash from groundbreaking to grand opening these days? And how does that compare to let's say 5 years ago, or let's say?
I would say on average 5 years ago, not taking weather into account, you're probably 5 to 6 months from shovel to ground to operations, and that's for a very smooth construction build. What we're noticing now is probably more in an 8-month time frame. Some of these are actually stretching even further. We just finished a project that has been started construction almost 2 years ago. So we're running the gambit of material shortages for the building side of things. We're running into issues with shortages from the equipment manufacturers and their suppliers. We're running into labor shortages on the construction side of things, trying to get carpenters and electricians, plumbers. Had a conversation the other day that the GC had interviewed over 150 plumbing contractors to get a bid on a project. So there's so many numbers of issues that we're running into in terms of these projects getting done in a timely manner now. I mean, you could have just clamps, not being able to get clamps for 2 months can hold an operation up from starting, which is it's a shame for the operator themselves.
Yeah, and a lot of times, not only is it hard to get these parts, but I'm also hearing from manufacturers and operators that they're paying double or sometimes even triple for the amount of money for these. So do you gentlemen see a return to normal in these areas anytime soon, or do you just think this is something we'll have to live with for the foreseeable future here?
Well, I think things have to right themselves at some point. Do I think costs are going to come down? I don't think substantially. I think they'll come down a little bit, but I've always been under the thought process that once people see that they can make money at a certain point, they only adjust it so much. It's supply and demand. They know we need these items. So we're going to pay what we need to get it done, to get our operations up and going, which means everything downstream has to adjust itself. So you talk about material cost doubling. Our stainless cost has gone up 75%. We do a lot of stainless tubing, stainless anchors. So that was a substantial increase on a materials charge to the customer, and had some hard conversations about it. It's hard when you budget 2 years prior for this project, and you get into the project, and all of a sudden your building cost has gone up $100,000. Your materials cost has gone up 70%. It's tough. I do think it's going to adjust itself, but again, I go back to the industry's a different beast now. With the private equity being here, they can manage those cost changes a little bit better than the single operators.
All right.
It's insane, Rich. Dan, help me out here. At one point, Ohio went 6 weeks without being able to get concrete.
Yes.
There was a concrete shortage. It's insane. And it puts such a wrench into everything. And like Daniel said, it's a butterfly effect. It pushes everything.
Yeah, it comes at an unfortunate time in the car wash industry, since so many, like you mentioned, and the private equity is coming into the market. So many people have the want to build new car washes, and they're facing these headwinds. But the good news is, from what I hear, is that they're still able to get approval for prime real estate, which wasn't always the case in car washing's history. So they're finding those A+ sites. It's just taking them a little bit longer and a little bit more money to build on them. So say I would like to open up, Rich's car wash is taken already. So let's go with DePaulo's car wash. Say I want to open up DePaulo's car wash. What can I do ahead of time? What do you advise your customers to plan and prepare for, kind of expedite the building of a car wash and a grand opening? How can they best be prepared once they've made that decision to want to build?
So I go back to, I call them pre-construction meetings, but it's really having everybody on board with the process. One of the biggest problems I see is the equipment drawings aren't incorporated into the architectural drawings. So we get hiccups where maybe the electrician didn't bid out the control voltage, or maybe the plumber didn't bid out the process plumbing for the equipment side of things, which are substantial change orders, which take time to build and get the work approved and then do the work. I go back to partnering up with good builders. Architects are just as important. Finding an architect who's worked within our industry, who understands what our ingress and egress, what works on your flow out in the parking lot with your vacuums, your equipment supplier. We're dwindling down in our options of equipment suppliers. But although some of our options are gone, the options that we have are very supportive to their customers in terms of the information that they give them. So, asking the questions and making sure that they're doing their part to help you be successful, not just being another sale for them. And then, down to the installation part of it, which obviously that's our wheelhouse. Finding a good installation partner and ensuring that their understanding of what your project scheduling is. There's things that they can help you out with in terms of prepping the location for the equipment install to make things go smoother and get that up and operating in a timely manner.
Communication is key. You communicate with your builder, communicate, installer, communicate with your plumbers. If your building's going to push, let everybody know that it's affected down that way. If you have supply chain issues, let everybody know. You can't over communicate in this business. And that's a very large hole that I see that's happening. Get your contracts out there, get your contracts signed so that you know who you have in line for where. And from that point, have your meetings, updates. So it's big.
Yeah, the car wash industry is certainly hot today, and there's no shortage of investors and people wanting to build washes. So these manufacturers are dealing with a lot of people. So you want to stay front and center for sure. So I know Quality Wash Solutions, in addition to helping people break ground and build and install car washes, also is involved with maintenance and helping operators, uphold the integrity of their equipment and performance. So and maybe Dom, you can draw on your years as an operator for this question, but what is the number one most common repair that your company runs into that could be prevented through preventative maintenance?
So I'll touch on this one first. It's proper preventative maintenance procedures on your bearings. Greasing your bearings, not over greasing your bearings, making sure that you're cleaning your tunnel. And I know this is going to sound funny, but a clean tunnel, whether it's your metals, whether it's your cloth, whether it's the floor, a clean tunnel, a clean pit will help give you longevity on everything that you have working in there. I mean, it's moving parts. It's just like the human body. If you don't take care of the human body, you're going to break down. The same thing happens with the tunnel equipment, only probably a little more prevalent with the tunnel equipment because it's open to water. A lot of this stuff isn't water friendly. Bearings and water are just something that you got to watch. So so I would say a lot of common is bearings, whether they're hanger bearings on your wraps or just bearings in general. On your poodle brushes. Stuff like that. So, I mean, that's a common one as an operator that I run into. I'm sure Daniel's been doing this for 23 years, so a little bit longer than me. I imagine you found a few others that you could touch on.
Yeah, so I like to start from the installation standpoint, because if a piece of equipment isn't installed properly, it's never going to function properly. It's going to create issues downstream in terms of preventive maintenance, wear and tear on the equipment. To go back to what Donna spoke about earlier in terms of hoses rubbing. If we don't install the hose properly and don't look for those rub points, that's going to be an issue constantly. If we don't level equipment up and make sure that the anchors are tight, it's going to move around. It's going to pull out of the concrete. Cylinders are going to wear out if we're not installed properly and we're using a cylinder to move the arm in and out when it should be the gravity doing it. So the proper installation and the proper materials being used when you install. I look at every piece of equipment that we install as if it's our own piece of equipment, it's our own operation, and what it would be like to have to maintain it. So we go in with the mindset that if we got to work on this in the future, we want to make it easily accessible, and we want to make sure that we only have to work on it because it was just the life expectancy of that part or piece. Probably the most common, I would say Dominic's right on track with bearings. We see a lot of bearings go out and people tend to just let those go because, depending on where that bearing is, piece of equipment might still work for another year. The problem is it presents more damage to the piece of equipment when you don't change that bearing. The key advice to me, to any manager or site personnel going into it, is look at your equipment daily. Look at it multiple times during the day. If you hear a weird sound, if you see a brush wobbling a little bit different than it normally does, there's probably an issue there. So don't just let it pass. Go and check it out. See what's going on. You have a customer complaint because something's not right. That could have been a mechanical issue. So really understanding what the wash is supposed to be doing as it's functioning, spending a lot of time in there while it's operating and watching the vehicles go through. That helps you understand what the wash is supposed to do. So when something doesn't happen properly, it jumps out at you.
Yes, prioritizing that maintenance and not putting it off, right? You don't want to be penny
Yeah.
wise and pound foolish. So keeping a proper
Exactly.
schedule is critical. So appreciate you gentlemen taking a few minutes to discuss some of these questions. Did you have anything else to add about the state of building in the car wash industry in 2022 here?
Yeah, I you know, again, we'll speak towards installations because that's our primary area of expertise. And so, you know, with the private equity coming into the industry and with the amount and volume of washes that are being built, we're in a very short supply of skilled installers. It's something we're working on currently, trying to bring people in, just like every aspect of the car wash industry, trying to find good people. Scheduling is becoming very difficult. There's a lot of different chains out there looking for installers. The volume of work being sold and the amount of workers to do the work is not the same. There is a huge shortage of installers. So my advice to operators out there is to find yourself good installation partners. There's quite a few of them out there that are really good, and check their work, make sure they're good installers, and get them scheduled up. And beware of the ones that don't have good work. You should ask for references. You should see some of the work that they've done out there, because unfortunately there are people out there that probably either need more training or should not be installing equipment. And that's something we don't want anybody to have to deal with.
Yeah, and the industry certainly, you know, shows no signs of slowing down. So building
No.
car washes is something that's going to continue moving forward. Maybe as an industry, we need to do a better job of connecting with younger people and showing them that they can have a career building car washes or even getting involved in the car wash industry. I know that's something we touch upon quite often in the magazine. So appreciate you gentlemen taking a few minutes today. Dom, it was great seeing you at the NRCC show. I hope you had a great visit to Atlantic City, and appreciate you and Daniel doing this interview with me today.
No, Rich,
you,
I
Rich.
appreciate it. Once again, it was great seeing you and your team at the NRCC. Can't wait to see you again. And if there's anything you need from us, now you know where to reach us.
All right, I'll be in touch. Thank you both.
All right, thank you.